You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
However,
lean in.
Well, what if I were to tell you that? What if I were to say that Davin Martin beats out Amir Boyd? I mean, that's a historically good defense last year. This was a starting corner that I think was pretty good. Not the biggest guy. And so Amir and Martin got all the reps in the spring. I guess my point of what I'm trying to say is that I think that you very, very clearly have three starting corners, okay? And Martin is going to be a guy that pops off on NFL radars because he's a bigger kid, man. I mean, we're talking 6'2"-ish, if just a bit, and can flat out run, maybe a bit taller. I think if you remember back to when he was added, there was some discussion amongst the portal conversations nationally and all that with how some of this was being reported, but I think Texas Tech was attached to a few other Big 12 corners specifically, and I tend to think they chose Davin Martin over those guys. To which you go, wait, there's some starters in the Big 12, and you're going to take this kid from UTSA. One, you have an in because Joey knows Coach Traylor and all that stuff, but I'm just not so certain that they aren't. This is another personnel department special, I guess, or James Blanchard special, I guess, if you want to say it that way. But it's not going to shock me a bit if he ends up being a starter for you. And I don't know if many people are expecting that or would be anticipating that. But be ready for that at some point.
Interesting. He's a name I brought up several times just in kind of getting glimpses at him physically. Has been noticeable among that group. So that's not all that makes it go, obviously, as a cornerback, but you can't teach size also. So he stands out for no other reason, just there.
And I just don't think that there's anybody in our circles or viewers, listeners, or people that write about this stuff or talk about it, all that stuff, that when the team got put together back in early January, here's our recruiting class, here's our portal class, all that anybody was suggesting Jalen Jones could be a starter, Davin Martin could be a starter. No. But I think post-spring, I think that they both could be in a manageable situation to be able to do just that and excel at it. Okay.
Well, the cornerback combo is even more interesting to me because at the wide receiver position, you just got so much damn opportunity. I'm like, well, anybody could wind up surprising us as a starter because you've got casting calls all over, maybe save for a Coy Aiken spot, maybe, but first, today's episode brought to you by Indeed. And hiring isn't just about finding somebody willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually make a hand in moving your business forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the only move to make. Instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post randomly, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, whether it's a skill set, specific certifications, location, or more. And that saves massive time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches and focusing only on those candidates who are actually a fit. Here's proof in the pudding that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies just like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And right now, Locked On Texas Tech listeners will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. I want to get back to that group, by the way, but defensively, Chris, I would have said early on in kind of the portal cycle or right when it was concluding that Mateen Igbarogba might have been the kind of name that could be in this category. He's been talked about so much since then, though. I don't even feel like that's a good answer anymore, because it seems like everybody's expecting him to be a man on the inside.
The other name we'll get to in a little bit for those same kind of reasons won't necessarily. Yeah, it's like a weird to answer the question.
Yeah,
but because staying on Davin Martin real quick before we get to the other defensive guy. I mean, Dante Balfour was the starter at the beginning of the season, and then he wasn't. I mean, and Amir basically started. Have to go back and look to be for sure, but I mean, he started 7, 8, 9 games or whatever it was, and I mean, and I'm not saying that that's what's. I'm just the whole point here is I think Jalen Jones, you hit, Davin Martin, you hit. And if they end up starting for you, not going to shock this guy. And I think they will have – and some of this will need to play out into the season. That's just like the Balfour thing. That's just kind of how it works. Injuries factor in. How much camp time did you miss if you got dinged up? I mean, there's all that stuff. But we're talking here in mid-May. All right, the next one. I'm getting close to calling my shot here on what I think really the lone question you have, because I don't see that Amir Boyd and Davin Martin is some question mark. I think you're very fortunate because Bryce Pollock is absolutely starting corner. I just think you have 3 starting corners. However, we do have a question about who this other safety is going to be. Okay, that's the one spot really on the entire team other than quarterback now, for different reasons, that we're just not sure about. I'm ready to call my shot right now because I think that we have a future household name that is ready to emerge, and I'm going to compare him to somebody that played here recently, played under Joey, so it's not that far away, and is a current NFLer. What if I were to suggest that not only does Peyton Morgan play safety for you, what if he is close to the interception leader in the Big 12 conference? You know, because that's it. So if he's playing one of the safeties, you're going to move Brendan Jordan over to what Cole Wisniewski did a year ago. Okay, more of that, you know, hybrid, closer to the line of scrimmage type safety, run support guy, and all that stuff. Because what Peyton Morgan is a ball hawk. This is somebody that I think tallied like 9 interceptions his senior season. Joey talks about this all the time. I think this kid has better skills at the same time in their careers than Rabbit did, and that's the comparison I would love to make to you. Dadrion Taylor Demerson, and that's I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. Like, you know, and I see Rabbit all the time. I saw him in Tempe the night that JT Toppin went down, unfortunately, but because he plays for the Arizona Cardinals, but. That was one football playing dude, man. Rabbit could just do everything. He's the Swiss Army knife component. There was just, you know, a little bit of everything. He ended a TCU game here a few years ago with picking off a pass at the very end. I mean, he just kind of like had these great ball skills, kind of a leadership component back there. I just think Peyton Morgan is getting started, but I think that he's further along and potentially got some more upside than Rabbit did at the same time in their careers. But I think he may get the nod. That's just me. And I think he was the biggest reason why maybe you stayed internal with your safety candidates. You flirted with it, and then you're like, no, man, we're good. We're gonna do this thing internally. Because I think Coy Parrott's the Oregon kid. He's potentially a first or second round draft pick this next year. Okay, that's who you had on a visit. But I think that should tell you a lot about Peyton Morgan and Malika Skara, Oliver Miles, the Bradshaw. I was about to say Aaron Bradshaw is what I meant. You know. So anyway, you got a lot to like. But yeah, I'm going with Peyton Morgan there.
I thought Peyton Morgan maybe was an answer to the guy that would fill that spot, but I'm I'm excited all over to hear you talk about maybe how he can thrive in that. Any comparison to Rabbit is fantastic, which, by the way, I would add to his player profile. I think it all started with incredible effort. I remember early in his career thinking, this is one of our best football players, and what I really love about him most is he plays as hard or harder than anybody on the team. I still remember, I think it was against Iowa State, he had some crazy forced fumble where it required him to like teleport or time travel to get there. No, it was actually just great effort. And man, it's really nice when you got leaders and talented guys playing with that kind of effort. So I hope Morgan is going to be replicating that if he winds up being the dude. All right, that's exciting to think about. The other thing I wanted to ask you about before we wrap this thing up is maybe a name that is most hoped to be a Red Raider that's primed to break out. He's not an unknown to known category guy. We know the name Micah Hudson.